Hey.
Hello and welcome to No Prize Podcast. I am the Professor Bud Young. That's Johnny. That's Lucas. What's going on, guys?
Well, I've had a week. I'll tell you that for that dead quickly. Went to a comic book shop a couple of weeks ago. It was terrible. I put a Google review on, and they shared my poor Google review on their Facebook page, asking for support. And then I've been insulted left, right, and centre. And of course, nobody has fixed the problems with the comic book shop. So, hey, well done for missing the point. Something for the geek end in Stockton-on-Tees in the UK. There you go.
I actually walked into a comic book store that opened up right uptown, and I was kind of excited. I saw the Facebook posts and everything, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go check that out when it opens next weekend." I walked in, took one look around, saw 3 long boxes of dollar comics, and then the rest of the place was all pops. So I turned around and walked out.
That sounds like my Forbidden Planet. Yeah. My bunch of Forbidden Planet is exactly like that.
What about you, Lucas? What's been going on the last couple of weeks? Anything good?
Taxes.
All right.
I am so glad I'm not in the States. That's all I'm saying.
Well, if you play it right, if you play it right and you do really good paperwork, it will work out for you, which is what it did for me. So I actually got a lot more back than I actually even made this year. So
do you do your own taxes?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yep. I was a former employee of the IRS way back in the day, and I keep using those skills to make sure that I,
con the system. Sorry, I have something in my
it's
throat.
kind of system. No, look, hey, the deductions are there, right? You just got to make sure that you got the proper paperwork.
Oh my God!
I'm
proper planning prevents piss poor performance. There you go. Check out all the P's.
Thank you, Stanley.
Certain things like when I visit my mother, make sure that there's some type of Comic-Con that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Comic-Con when he visits his mom is the next door neighbor who's got like 2 comics. Do you want to look at these?
Hey, it's a business expense, right?
Do that. All right. So let's jump into some news the last couple of weeks. And I know that I think it hit right before our podcast a couple of weeks ago. But I want to talk about Jonathan Majors for a minute. I know that he's coming off 2 huge movies that he starred in. We have Ant-Man 3 and Creed 3. And now, of course, he gets arrested for alleged assault charges, domestic abuse. So, in this day and age, what do we think Marvel's going to do? Do they wait for this to blow over and see what happens, or do they recast now?
May I interject?
Yes, you may.
Whatever happened to innocent till proven guilty?
This is the cancel culture that we're living in, right? I agree with you 100%. I think that there's plenty of times we've seen things blow over. Look at Ezra Miller. He's right in that picture too. He's they're letting him run around still. But there's a huge base of people looking for them to recast Jonathan Majors.
I'm not saying, look, if he's done something, then fair enough. It should have the right ramifications. If I harass or sexually abuse or sexually assault one of my colleagues at work, damn sure I'm getting fired. But you get suspended first whilst there's an investigation going on. Mm-hmm. And once the investigation's over with, then you deal with the ramifications. You kind of just cut someone loose just because someone says. and I don't want to sound like I'm defending anyone because you know what? I wasn't there. I don't know Jack. But the thing is, we do live in a culture where people say things that aren't true. I know that's hard to believe. In fact, over here in the UK, recently a woman was charged for making false rape claims on someone.
She was actually charged.
She
Okay.
was charged.
Interesting.
Because
Well, if
over
anything,
here
it was
when
for
that
the
happens, now over here when that happens, nothing happens. Like, oh, okay, they might let the perp go, right? They might
it's
let the accused go, but they don't necessarily get charged.
it's the I think it's a perversion of justice. I think it is. I think that's what they get charged under. But I'm not,
So, Lucas, what do you think? What kind of position is Marvel put in here? Because I believe though we have Loki season 2 is already in the shoot, and he's in that. So
Right.
it's not like
So
they can recast after the fact, right? So
right.
we're still gonna
So
see him in Loki too.
right. So that's actually interesting. Right? So let me first start by answering Johnny's question of what happened to proven guilty or innocent to proven guilty. Over here we have this movie called Believe All Women. Okay, believe all women. That means that hey, doesn't that's why ex Vice President John Pence, he would never be alone with any woman without a chaperone.
Hmm.
Okay, so the beautiful thing about this character, the character that he plays, John or King, is there are different versions of King. Right, so they could have a black king, they could have a purple king, they could have a white guy that plays a freaking king. None of the kings are their faces are actually different, so they could actually just rehire a new guy in a hot minute.
mm,
The recent series that they just did, in fact, it's 2 years of it. It's called Timeless. Those series actually chase after Kang when he was a younger guy, and kind of brings us up to what he was going through and what was his motivation. So they could actually hire a younger actor to portray Kang. Uh, until at least until this mess is over, or until
yeah.
they make a decision on what they're going to want to do. So they could do that. In fact, we've been discussing with my other cohorts this past week, like all the other actors we would rather see play
Mhm.
different type of Kang rather than this guy. Because look, the brother is busy. He's
Yeah.
been all over the freaking place, right? He needs to freaking sit down and freaking take a break because at least until Marvel gets some of its other stuff squared away,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
We absolutely loved his piece of Ant Man. Other pieces, right? But we loved his pieces of Ant Man. Now we've got Marvel's coming up. All I want to know is where does Kang fit in that? That's all I care about. I don't care about Miss Marvel, Kamala. I don't care. I want to know where Kang fits in that. We got Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm done with Guardians of the Galaxy. I want to know where Kang fits in that. That's all I want is Kang, Kang, Kang. But of course, unfortunately, that this stuff is happening, we're not going to be able to just enjoy it until it gets settled.
Mhm.
Now, the ugly thing is, you've also got in DC, you've got, like you guys pointed out, Ezra Miller, right?
Yeah.
The difference in between the stuff with Ezra Miller is it's so alleged. I mean, there's the crazy stuff like breaking into somebody's house and still beer. Like, my boy, what are you doing, right? Just 7-Eleven is open 24/7, I believe, right? Just we can go for that, right?
Good point. Good point. Well made.
The other stuff that they're saying he's cuckoo is like, oh, he's kidnapped this girl and everything. It's like, well, got to remember that
Is it not there, Cuckoo? Because
they right,
Yeah.
that's
Mrs. Miller, right, Mrs.
mm,
Miller. If you look at it, Miss Miller visited her friend and is letting her friend and and their kids visit him and sit with him at his compound or at their compound. It's a totally freaking different story. But
Yeah.
because a lot of people are so close-minded as to how the world works right now, it's this guy, this 30-year-old guy, is absconding young women and doing all types of crazy stuff with them. So that's the stuff that's the narrative that DC has been playing for right now, and it's working so far until we actually see the Flashpoint movie,
oh,
and then
I,
it
Yeah.
might freaking
I
fall apart.
I have no doubt that Ezra is getting Flash pointed out at the end of the Flash movie. I, I have
If he does
no
well,
doubt.
if he
I
does
have no
well, who
doubt.
knows?
Grant Gustin's back in at the end of that movie. I would bet my shirt on it.
Well, I think I'm just going to bring this up a couple of years ago. I think Jeremy Renner had some legal stuff going on with supposed drug abuse, and I don't know if there was any kind of domestic assault. I can't remember, but um, he just laid low for a year or something, and then came back and everybody had forgotten about it. I think that Jonathan Majors just needs to chill and go fly under the radar for the next year or two, let this blow over, because the media is fickle, right? So once you kind of get over this, I think as long as he doesn't have any more dust ups, this kind of can quietly go away. And I kind of
Oh yeah,
expect that might happen, but
yeah.
we'll
I
see.
mean, case in point, man. What's his name? John Rowland or whatever from Rick and Morty, right?
Yeah.
His world was blown apart. Now all that stuff is kind of quietly going away, right? So that's what he needs to happen. Like, let the legal process work its way through. This stuff will eventually go away, and then we'll just be. Because look, what is he? What was the movie that he just did? Creed 3, and
Yeah.
everything, right? People, which it was great. He was slated to do another movie. He was getting all types of endorsement deals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, they still paid you, right? They still gave you your money. Just let it slow down a little bit. Let the legal process go through, and then
Yep.
Of
worst case
course,
happen. We'll see you in like 5 years.
and if he has done something untoward, then fine, throw the book at him because that's what's supposed to happen.
Right, but let it play out in the courts. I
Exactly.
think I
Yeah.
don't like this. The media jumps on everything, and then the latest things that we've been seeing, of course, is everybody recasting King, and I'm just like, slow your roll, you know. like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not going to happen. Just kind of let it go by. But let's jump into the other Marvel news that we talked about a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, is the shakeups over at Disney, and yeah, we're gonna jump into these layoffs, and I know that we were talking about Victoria Alonso, and
Yeah,
they settled out of court, or they paid her off, so to speak, millions of
right.
dollars. I heard. So
Yeah. So right. So let's be clear about what the situation was here. That was part of the first phase of the executive layoffs. Victoria Alonso, she was one of the executive producers for a lot of the movies. But what was happening was she was also at the same time, when she was supposed to be promoting Black Panther, she was also promoting her other movie, Argentina 1885 or something like that, which
right,
according to her contract there was a stipulation of contract that that's not supposed to happen, right? So Marvel was saying, well, not only you're fired, you're not going to get your compensation package,
right,
right?
Fair enough.
But she fought for it. She said, well, there was all this other stuff happening behind the scenes that I want my compensation package. So now that's what she gets. She doesn't get any extra money. She gets her compensation package, even though she doesn't really, earn it because of all the crazy stuff with you. So
See,
imagine, because at the base of it, you got to remember Black Panther, the latest Black Panther movie, was getting promoted for the Grammys at the same time that this new Garden Tina movie. That's what was kind of pissing people off. And then she's saying, "Oh, I've got proof of all this other stuff." Well, don't say you've got proof. Just show it to us, and then we'll believe
Johnny.
only the entertainment industry can you do something. Well, that in the sports, you don't do well as a coach in football. You get fired. You get a huge $1 million deal to leave the place, and then you get another job somewhere else doing exactly the same thing as you just did. I swear. How does this work? It, I don't. I
you.
want to. Please, a rival podcast. Please sign me up so I can get a great big whopping paycheck of somebody just to talk about comic books somewhere else. Please.
Oh, jeez. So these layoffs at Disney, is this going to make Marvel MCU leaner and meaner, or is this going to mess
Right.
some stuff up?
Yeah. So the second round of layoffs, which is slated for Monday, April 24th to the 27th, they're going to start letting people know. It's supposed to be about 7,000 people.
That's a lot.
Um, yeah, it's supposed to bring them about like 5.5 billion in freaking savings, and it's going to be across the board. It's not going to be not it's going to be at Marvel Entertainment, which includes the comic books, includes Hulu, Freeform, and FX, right? So it's all those all those entertainment industry, freaking streaming, freaking services that include comics and all that other stuff. It's also going to include, well, that's the second round. The third round is going to include MLB, ESPN, and the NBA contracts because that's what they're really ramping up for. Is because the NBA contract is supposed to be up pretty soon, and they're going to need the cash for it.
Mm.
Um, and then where it gets really kind of freaking stickler is the reasons why they needed to do this because recently I think we reported back on maybe a couple months ago the labor dispute they freaking finally settled that. Well, guess who's getting fired? Some of those lower level employees that are at the freaking parks. Um, Also getting settled. You mentioned Victor Alonso. That thing getting settled. The thing that's under the radar as getting settled was there was a copyright infringement freaking lawsuit that was settled. So if you look at any type of movie or thing and you see that they used some type of green screen to put this face on that type of freaking body, there is a whole copyright infringement from I think it was like Rodman, right? One of the employees from Rodman went over to Disney and called his own company DD3. They stole that freaking thing and then they went over there. Well, they kind of settled that, but then other parts of that they said the judge said, nah, that's not making work right there. So there's all types of things that's going on right there, but the biggest thing that people that I like our listeners listening in is just look at maybe I don't know maybe investing a little bit of money in Disney. I'm not a CPA, not a CPA nor a CNA, but I will say that the motivation behind all these cuts is because what's his name?
Almighty?
Bob Iger, excuse me, Bob
Oh,
Iger
there you go.
promised shareholders that they will return to paying dividends, and that's why they're trying to get all this money together.
You want to make more money, make better product.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I'll say the opinions by Lucas are his own.
No,
Just saying. I'm a financial advisor, so I don't want to be held liable for any kind of.
I'm British. I'm British. I don't care. It's like your laws don't apply to me.
Well, you guys do have some parks over there.
No, we don't.
No, you don't. Okay,
No.
I thought you guys. Oh, France. That's France.
France.
Yeah.
Sacre bleu. Bonjour, je m'appelle Jeunet.
Well, that's a quick
Comment
boat
ça?
ride over
No,
there. That's a
that's
quick
right.
boat. Yeah, it's
Je
a quick
m'appelle.
boat ride.
Yeah.
Quick boat ride.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the finale of The Mandalorian. We had the last two episodes that aired over the last couple of weeks, and this seemed to be almost like a wrap up ending of the entire show to me. I thought, and I want to say episode 7 was better than episode 8. I think the show kind of ended on a just kind of a quiet note, really. Not really building anything up for the future, I don't think. Johnny, I know you watched it, so tell me what your thoughts were.
The setup
I know what
was
your thoughts were.
the setup was decent. It's episode 7. The setup was pretty solid.
Yeah.
All right. But then the logistics of episode 8 just make no sense whatsoever. So episode 7, we have Grogu in the battle droid running away from. We don't even see how he gets through the hole in the door for the first place. So yeah, that's not going to happen. Excuse me. And then so we see him running away with the Mandalorians. And then miraculously, he turns up in time to save our hero. Where did he come from? What happened to all the other troopers he must have come across between trying to go back and find his mate? You know what? There was a nice bit. There was one nice bit. The whole I'll adopt him. Yeah, fair enough. That we knew that was coming. It's a nice bit to say. Yeah, that's sweet. Well done. But after that, other than that, it was utter tosh. Utter tosh. I feel like I've wasted my entire time watching this show this season. Nothing major's happened. Nothing interesting's happened. Where did the pirates go?
Oh, the pirates got wiped out in episode 4.
Yeah, but I understand they had the big fight and stuff, but they didn't. That's it. No Thrawn. Where's all the rest of the Empire? Are you telling me there was only 2 tribes of Mandalorian? What? She was sent out to find like Mandalorians from around the galaxy. She made one stop. One stop she made. And they just happened to all be there. Give it a rest. You know, it's and also the other thing, I will say this, and I don't know if I said this recently. My stepson, his girlfriend, absolutely loves Pedro Pascal, thinks he's great and everything. And I didn't have the heart to tell him or tell her. It doesn't have to be Pedro in the suit. Pedro's the voice of the Mandalorian. It could be Disney guy number 47.
It's actually 2 different stuntmen that were on set the entire time. I don't even know if Pedro Pascal was even in the suit the entire season.
Probably not.
The only time, and this brings up the other interesting point, and it leads into a little bit of Black Adam as well as Mandalorian. There's this great big deal that Mandalorians don't take the helmet off, and that's who they are. An actress of Katie Sackhoff's ability and geekness for all the different shows she's been in, there's no way she would want to stay behind a mask for a season. So even though you've got these great big rules telling you can't take, and everything's built on that, and Din Djarin's quest was because he'd already showed his face, because she's a big star and she's saying, well, you know what, I need my face on the screen to prove it's me, they changed the whole idea of what the Mandalorians are about. Just so her face gets screen time, the same way that Pierce Brosnan had screen time in Black Adam. Otherwise, why would Dr. Fate take his helmet off? Because he needed it because for his powers and stuff. It just absolutely baffles my brain. I am out. Mandalorian season 4 comes out. I don't care. I am done. It is terribly written. It is fan service, and there's just nobody up to Jon Favreau's level who can turn around and say to him, as Grogu does, no.
Lucas, what did you think of the last couple of episodes?
So season 1, right, was there's a concept in movies, right? You always got to have that one object, right, that kind of pushes the thing around, and that was Grogu, right? So they kind of transferred that Peregrine Falcon thing to the Dark Blade, right? So that was supposed to be the big thing that everybody was supposed to be searching for and battling and fighting over. But the Mandalorian, he just kind of freaking hands it to her, like, "Oh, here you go," and then
she
like,
defeated my enemy that defeated me. Bullshit.
Look, if I wanted to be in a fucking court case, then I'll freaking watch Judge Judy or some shit. I'm not. This is not what I came to Mandalorian. I wanted to see shootouts. I wanted to see somebody going after the gold, the Indiana Jones type freaking put the freaking bag on the freaking thing. I wanted to see Grogu fucking freaking just Grogu out, just Jedi Master freaking out, because he went to school for like a couple months, right? And then
a couple of years. That was 2 years.
Yeah, right. So when those 3 red guys, whatever you call them, they're not stormtrooper, whatever you freaking call them,
Praetorian Guard.
freaking try to roll up on them. I wanted to see Grogu freaking like just Jedi Master out, freaking show me what you freaking learned, son, and just freaking that freaking running around the freaking ceiling, freaking looking a little bitch. I wanted to see. Hey, okay, this is what we're waiting for. This is what that. No, instead no, he's just running around and then he has to get saved by the Mandalorian. So then in this final thing, it was like, so here would be my top question: when has a Star Wars story just absolutely ended in a happy ending? Right, because that's what it feels like to me. It's like, okay, yeah, all those other freaking things happened and all those freaking people may be dead, but guess what? Mandalorian and Grogu, they're just chilling right now. They're just gonna chill on the farm and not freaking do anything else. And that's the kind of feeling that I felt they left us with, so they could go do this other stuff but that's not what we asked for, right? We've been asking for Thrawn for years right now, and the best we got was they're dropping his name about 8 or 9 times.
They dropped his name so many times in episode 7. I thought for sure he was going to show up in this episode, which was a huge letdown.
I think they dropped his name because of the same week the Ahsoka trailer dropped, and he makes an appearance in the Ahsoka trailer.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of more of a memory prod more than an actual story point at this point.
And that's where I think the Mandalorian season 3 kind of was a letdown a little bit. And I think it was a victim of the different stuff that was going on the last couple of years over there at Disney with when they got rid of Cara Dune and they had to like jettison the Rangers kind of spinoff and some of the stuff that they had announced. And Katie Sackhoff was actually announced as leading her own show, right? Like they were going to spin her off in her own show. And with all that stuff kind of fallen to the wayside, they actually have her co-starring. She's the second billing in this season of Mandalorian behind Pedro Pascal. So Pedro Pascal and Katie Sackhoff in The Mandalorian. And so she had to have just as much screen time and just as much story plot in this season. And I think, having to save the Book of Boba Fett and last year and have the second half of that show be Mandalorian season 2.5, I think hurt this season, where those were the best episodes of Book of Boba Fett were the ones when Din Djarin was in it. But this season, I remember talking about this, I thought that these episodes were very disjointed. Where you had one episode that was about the magistrate, then we had one episode that was about Pershing, that's in the clones and the Empire. And then there was one that was about the rebels, and then there was one about the pirates. And I'm like, what is this all going to tie together by the time we hit episode 8? And it did, but it was a letdown because I don't think anybody really had enough time to shine.
So I'll give you, I suppose, my last comment on the Mandalorian. My wife hasn't watched this season at all. She bailed after.
Mine either.
And she's right to bail because season 2 finale, as I said before, should have been the end of it. Job done. Going back from that was a mistake. So she watched the finale with me, and when I don't know his name, so apologies, but when the leader fired himself back through the sky, makes you wonder, don't you, if you can fly from the surface. Do you remember when they ran out of jet fuel tracing the Dragon, but they can fly from underground all the way up into space? Yeah. Anyway, that's one thing. So he gets on his starship, and my wife turns around and says, "Oh, he's going to do something dodgy. He's going to do something. He's a bad guy. He's going to do something." I was like, "You know what? I hope he does, because other than this, it's just by the numbers." And he didn't. He was a good guy. I was like, "Oh man, and he survived." I was like, "Oh man, this is just bullshit. This is just." Yeah. My wife's coming up with better story ideas than the show. I'm like, "Oh."
Well, yeah.
This is not the way.
I was let down by the finale. I thought that there was going to be more. Even if they had an after credit scene that showed Thrawn just kind of turn into the camera, that would have saved it. And then it was nothing. And after name dropping him 7 times in the previous episode, introducing Captain Pelion, who was a big character in Heir to the Empire, and then nothing on that afterwards. So let down.
If the Mandalorian's such a good fighter without his armor, without his weapons, why does he need all these weapons and all his armor?
Well, and then the final, and Lucas, you were talking about the fight scene with the Praetorian Guard and Grogu. That just shined a light on Grogu as a puppet, didn't it? He couldn't move, and he was like hopping around, and I'm like, could they at least get a little CGI in there and make him look like he had feet? Instead of making him hop around like someone was holding a green screen puppet, making him flip like it was toy time.
The Grogu effects have been terrible. When they tried to move him, they've just been terrible. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
He's always been best when they just close up on the face and have the facial expressions. Those were good, but when they try to make him look like, it just reminded me of Sesame Street. When how off-putting it is when they show Ernie and Bert with feet, and you're just like, that's weird showing them because they just look awful. So, but anyway, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll start talking some comics. Let's check out this one. All right. Make sure to check out the K-Pop Cosmos podcast along
For
with
sure.
all of our other podcasts.
For sure, for sure.
Freya will love that she's got that on there. Well,
Yeah, well, for sure, because you definitely need to pay attention to what's going on, especially after this week, because one of the biggest K-pop stars, Moonbeam, he passed away from suicide at the age of
Oh.
25. Part of one of the biggest bands, Astro Boy band. So you might want to pay attention to see what she's talking about and see how she addresses it.
Oh,
No.
well, check that out. All right, on to some comic books. Lucas, we were just talking about The Mandalorian, and hey, last week we had some Ewok goodness happening.
Icha Wamba.
Yes, sir. So look, Star Wars Ewoks that happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Definitely wanted to address it because one of my favorite. I know a lot of people don't like Ewoks, but it was one of my favorite parts of the Star Wars lore back in the day. So Return of the Jedi, Star Wars Ewoks #1, written by Lisa Wong, and she had a little help for some of the other stories because they broke down the stories. Lee Garbett and Java Tartaglia for the stories around the campfire sequence. Then you had Paulina Gancho for the working cell, Kyle Holtz and Rachel Rosenberg for Papalou's Tale, Casbar Winnegar for Pika's Tale. Then you had artist VC's Caramanga doing lettering, and Ryan Brown cover artist, and then a slew of other cover artists that I'm not going to go into because no. But I do know that the Kyle Holtz 1 in 25 was good, and this one right here, the Ryan Brown 1 in 100, are actually pretty good. Um, just don't know where it falls in the speculation spectrum right now. Now, love how they did this. I love how they freaking broke down the freaking stories. But here's a did you know that George Lucas's original intent for Return of the Jedi was that the what do you call
Wookiees.
it? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Wookiees
Yeah.
were going to be the ones that defeated the Empire,
yeah,
right back in the day, right? But because it was supposed to be a comparison of an uncivilized freaking civilization that was defeating this empire that had all the tools and the weapons and everything. But because Chewbacca had already been established as having complicated language and being able to use weapons, all that, and he was so strong and everything, they didn't think that was going to work. So then he invented the Wookiees to take that as kind of like a stand-in for like the Viet Cong, which was like a big trauma for America at the time because we were only maybe 7, 8, 9 years away from our leaving that whole situation. So seeing how how these writers wanted to play that out and give us more of a story about who the Ewoks were was actually kind of freaking interesting. The art, let me tell you, the art for I forget which story it was. It's the one that was drawn by Kyle Holtz.
yes. You
Um,
are absolutely right, Lucas. You're gonna say
Kyle Holtz and Rachel Rosenberg, Pop Loose Tale. That art was amazing. They maybe probably should have did the whole book like that. And they would have they definitely would have got a lot of more people's money on this one. But I like where they were going with all the stuff they're trying to show. Like, hey, when technology just randomly shows up, what do they freaking do with it? When you got what are the other threats that are on this freaking planet? They went into that one. How and now we also know that they weren't the only creatures on this freaking planet. There's other planets that were on this freaking planet as well. So I like that. I like seeing that. For me, it's definitely an 8 out of 10. The only stress thing that I had against it is they probably should have used Kyle Holtz for all the interiors on this one. I can't wait to see issue #2. What did you guys think?
Oh, is there going to be a second issue?
I don't know, or was
I
this a
thought
one
this was
shot?
a one
so
shot.
it's a one shot, I think.
Oh damn,
Yeah.
boo!
Lucas,
Ooh.
I mean, sorry, Johnny. What did you think about the
Well,
Ewoks?
all right, let me start off by saying this. Every time I put a Star Wars movie on the telly, my wife turns around and says to me, "Is this the one with the teddy bears in?" And I say, "Sweetheart, I love you to bits, but we never watch the one with the teddy bears in." However, this book put a stupid, daft grin on my face from the first page all the way through. I could do without the little green dudes in one of the stories. I was like, you know what, this isn't for me. But when I turned the page and
Talking about
uh,
the ancestors of the Grinch.
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. No pass. But then I turned the page and Pablo's story, Pablo's story, even absolutely, this is my cup of tea. I was like, wow, look how good this is. The red contrast against the black and white darkness that's sort of pervading the Endor Forest Moon. I like the technology one at the end as well. What would an Ewok do? And we know that Ewoks are curious. I mean, look what happened to Wicket on the speeder bike, right? So they're not as primitive as we like to think they are. What impressed me the most, I think, across all the stories, is that there's no word. All right, now this is a trick artists use every now and again, and I'm glad they did it this way because you got to think they have a different language, you know, all the chirps and each wombas and all that that you mentioned earlier. But I think it would have been a massive disservice to do that whole thing where they put them in parenthesis and says Ewok language and then just written English, because they are an alien species. They are looking at things slightly different. And I think all the artists deserve a massive credit, no matter what the style is, for showing how expressive the characters are, which sells the book all the way through. So if you're not an Ewok fan like me, there is still some absolute sparkling elements of this book that you should be picking up. There you go. And you never know, I might buy it for my wife because, you know, the world needs more books about teddy bears.
So what I'll say about this book is it really did bring me back to, I think, 1984 when Return of the Jedi came out and the Ewoks were the hottest thing going. And the reason that they weren't Wookiees, Lucas, was really because they wanted to sell more toys, and you could sell a lot more teddy bears than Wookiees. So no, I'm dead serious.
Hey,
so
don't say that. I've got Chewbacca teddy bear upstairs. I bought my wife ages ago. I'm going put another advert and I'll go and get it right now.
The 80s was a whole Teddy Ruxpin type of deal. Remember freaking Teddy Ruxpin?
That's all I remember is all the merchandising and all the Ewoks you saw in Return of the Jedi. And then there was this book that they had the Saturday morning cartoon, and one of these books really kind of reminded me of the cartoon. With kind of the cartoony art, but this book, I always say, oh wow, Alyssa Wong must have had a really easy time writing this book because it has no dialogue, and sometimes those are the harder books to write, right? Because you have to actually tell the artist, this is exactly what I want in this panel to tell the story. So that to me was the more interesting part, other than the fact that you could just kind of flip through. It didn't take 5 minutes to read the book, but I mean, looking through the artwork and everything was really when you kind of focus on the storytelling aspect of the artwork. So that was what brought it home for me. So
one more before we move on, I will just want to say we should point out that the Ewoks got their first. There was the first sequel prequels that came out. We always talk about Phantom Menace, but remember the Ewoks had two
TV
cinematic
movies.
Cinematic releases over here. You could go to the pictures.
They were on TV over here on
Battle of Endor and Caravan of Courage.
Yep.
Those were the first new Star Wars movies after Return of the Jedi.
Except didn't the Ewoks talk in one of them?
I don't know. I've not seen it. By that point, I was like,
they had one of them talked.
I discovered girls and stuff by then, mate. Sorry.
Well, I remember they talked in the cartoon and they talked in one of those movies. One of them talked. It was like one.
Yeah, I think in the cartoons they talked, but I'm not sure.
All right, so
good choice, Lucas.
Check out Star Wars Ewoks. That was a good change of pace. Let's do we want to do what do we want to do next? What do you have in the
oh my word,
yes,
Johnny. We've been talking Amazing Spider-Man, and we've been talking almost every issue of this storyline because it's been building up for so long. But what's going on, Johnny?
So written by Zeb Wells, art by John Romita Jr., Scott Henderson on inks, Marcio Menez is on colors, VC's Joe Caramanga is on letters. If you want to know what is going on with this story, I have 2 words for you. 2 words and 2 words alone. Filler issue. There you go. Everything that's in this book could have been put somewhere else. because there is absolutely no need for it. Ideally, there is a nice humorous payoff when Spidey goes back to steal something from the Fantastic Four, and Sue's like, "Computer, stop Spider-Man," and the computer's like, "Ah, but Spider-Man's your friend." And it's a nice little humorous payoff from the last issue. But other than that, you got to think, if people know that Peter Parker's Spider-Man, which still freaks me out, by the way. How does that happen after everyone's mind got wiped in one more day, or whatever it was? Because it hasn't been retroed out yet. Then surely Cap knows that he'd check out Norman, he'd check out the people Spider-Man knows. Or, are there no detectives in the Marvel universe? Does Batman come over there and need to sort it all out for you? I do think that. But also, time, the dimension that MJ is in, the time moves different to the one that Peter's in.
Right.
So they have the battle, and Peter escapes, and he realizes he's actually a week back from where he was. So this is what got me thinking. If he's a week back from where he was, why couldn't he just go and tell himself to watch out for it in the future? Because you'd expect that if he's gone back a week in his own timeline, there should be two Spider-Man kicking around. One doesn't disappear. Anyway, by the way. But then the time, I get it works differently, but it's not consistent. It seems to me that for Peter and MJ, when Peter left, only a week had gone by.
Yeah.
Now Peter spent some time on with Norman, and there's been enough time for MJ to have not one, but so at least 18 months, 9 months if they're twins. Also, the future that MJ's in, the dimension, it's like a desolate place. How did he manage to even, have clean clothes? Never mind deliver babies. How was that possible? The whole thing I just find it really hard to sit logically and accept it. My suspension of disbelief has crashed on this one.
Right.
I get comics do crazy things. I get that, and we'll see this in the Avengers book. But it just doesn't make enough sense. I don't want it to be real, of course not. It's comic books, but you've got to make just a modicum of sense to buy into it. And this is just inconsistent all over the place. The rumors are, we all know the rumors. Someone's going to buy it. Who it is, I'm betting Black Cat.
Oh, that's different.
Well, no one's come out and said it's MJ yet, so.
Well, that's what I think. That's who I think it is.
Everyone thinks it's MJ. They're not going to MJ it.
Right.
Yeah.
And doesn't MJ now have superpowers? Apparently.
Sure.
Well, that will get wiped out by the end of the Black Cat.
Yeah. Well, when she's dead.
MJ.
When MJ is dead. Yeah, she won't have powers anymore. Yeah. Lucas, what did you think of Amazing Spider-Man?
So, to go on to, in fact, let's give the credit and hold accountable the writers that we're talking about. Zeb Wells is the writer, with John Romita Jr., Scott Hanna, and Marcio Meniz as the cover artist. Penciled by John Romita, and colorist is Marcio Mendez, and letterer Joe Caramanga. You were talking about the time dilation thing, where different dimensions have different times. It's supposed to go the other way, right? Because the dimension that they're in is outside of time. So it's supposed to go slower in the dimension that Mary J and this guy is at, versus where Peter Parker's at, right? Because Peter Parker is in the dimension where time flows freely and is affected by gravity. So the 25 years was supposed to go faster for him than it was for her and the old dude. So they got that freaking backwards, which is kind of pisses me off because Peter Parker's supposed to be a smart guy and all this stuff.
Oh, I forgot you like your science to work, don't you? I forgot that.
And yeah, I mean, then you got these two kids. Like, what type of irresponsible parents, if you're in a freaking lost freaking dimension, would say, you know what? Let's not have accidentally one, but let's have two freaking kids. In this weird dimension ruled by a freaking demon. Right, a demon that wants people around so he can slaughter them to sacrifice them for their freaking god. Now I'll let bypass the clothes because they're in a lost city, right? So they probably found some like random stuff, but that's just bad parenting, right? Um,
Bad pairing.
but the thing that gets me is that this is supposed to be a big shock. Like, okay, Mary Jane says, "Hey, these are my kids now. Things have changed. Everything. Stop telling me stuff. Show me the romance that happened between her and this freaking guy over these 10 years apparently, because these kids are almost fucking full grown right now. Show me. You probably could have did a split screen of where Peter Parker was working on making sure he got back to freaking Mary J. And then in the other freaking page or screen, you've got what was happening between her and the freaking guy and them
Mhm.
having the freaking kids.
That would have
That
worked.
would have made it more impactful when they say, "Hey, things are different now, freaking Peter."
Yeah.
Because that's what we were waiting on, is the explanation of who are these kids, who is this guy, and what the heck is going on. Instead, for my $3.99, I get butt kiss. Right?
Mhm.
Don't once again stop telling me stuff. Show me, because that's what the point of a comic book is, right?
Yep.
This gets shown and not just told.
Well, this is going to be my big issue with this storyline is, so we've been waiting for over a year for them to actually tell it to us, and now this whole storyline just seems like they're treading water, waiting to get to the big issue 25, the anniversary issue, where they're going to blow our doors off with supposedly the biggest story in 50 years they're billing it as. So I agree 100% with Lucas. If you want me to care about what's going on in this storyline, and if you're treading water as much as it looks like you are, show me an issue where it's Mary Jane and the husband, where they spend all of this time, these years. Show me that they fell in love and that they had kids. And the jarring part of this is at the end of last issue, when Peter Parker got sucked back into our universe. Um, and then by the end of this issue, when he goes back, it looks like zero time had passed. It looks like
Mm.
the bad guy was still ready to kill. I can't even remember the other guy's name, but he's still injured. He's still got the gut shot or whatever he had, and then Mary Jane's still there. It looked like no time had passed at all. So what happened in that? I know it was supposed to be a shock to have the kids come out of the door and say, "Mom,"
Yeah.
but we already knew that. So
Yeah.
that wasn't a big, huge revelation for us to know that these are where the kids came from. But show me what happened in that meantime. Show me that they fell in love, that Mary Jane thought Peter was gone for good, and so she gave up. That show me that. Don't show me like all of a sudden this is it.
This
So
is the problem that I've been talking about with these comic books lately. They want us to have this romance, and once again, I don't care whether it's LGBTQ or heterosexual. You're putting all this romance BS in these
yeah.
freaking books, but you don't know how to do it right. You need to go back and hire the guys that wrote those love romance joints from the '80s and bring them in, and because the women were all over that stuff, trust me. And bring and what was the name of the guy that always had his freaking shirt off with the long blonde hair and everything? Fabio.
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 Yeah,
Yeah.
Fabio. Bring in the writers that were doing that freaking thing. Bring those people in. Have them write the stuff.
Bring Fabio in.
Yeah, yeah. I want Peter Parker to get Fabioed out. If
I
you're gonna
just
freaking
want to
pull this
say,
out.
I have to say, there's a TV show in the UK called 8 out of 10 Does Countdown, and they have a male model, and they call him Fabio, and he looks nothing like the Fabio you're talking about. It's just making me laugh when I'm thinking of Fabio in the Marvel universe. So 8 out of 10. There you go. There's your shout out. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, that's so. I think we can safely say that everybody is very underwhelmed by this storyline that has been building up for a year.
That said, you know we're going to look at number 25.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean,
of course we are.
I'm calling it now. We'll be looking at. I'm going to call Amazing Spider-Man 25, and I'll be calling Captain Marvel 50 when that hits.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that now. So prepare yourself.
Be here in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about it.
Well, maybe not Captain Marvel in 2, but you get the idea.
All right, so let's wrap up with this review. We've been talking about it for months. It's finally, it's the end. It's the end of the Avengers and Avengers Assemble Omega. And not only that, it's the end of Jason Aaron's run. But let's give credit where credit is due. We have Jason Aaron on writing. We have Aaron Cooter, Dexter Vines, Ivan Fiorelli on art. We have Javier Garan, Jim Town, Alex Sinclair on inks. Letterers, VC's Corey Pettit. We get some cover artist is Aaron Cooter and Alex Sinclair. There's a bunch of variants out there too. If you hate it, blame Martin Biro, Annalise Bisa, and Tom Brevoort. So this is the culmination of about 5.5 years of Jason Aaron writing the Avengers. This is his final issue. And if you can keep track of what's going on in this issue, someone let me know, because the ridiculousness in this issue is off the charts. First of all, you have 2 pages of supposed characters in this book, the Omni Avengers and the Multiversal Masters of Evil, and 3 different Captain Americas. One of them's a dog. You have 3 different Phoenixes. You have Prehistoric Phoenix. You have Old Man Phoenix, which is really Wolverine. You have Echo, who's Phoenix. You have 17 different Thors. You have a couple of different Iron Men that figure in this issue. Not any of these main characters are actual members of your Avengers team. So it is insane. What's going on. We have these big ideas, these epic events, and that's what Jason Aaron wants, is a huge epic event going on every time you open up the pages of Avengers. Here we end up in what's called the God Quarry, which is inside of a black hole, the remnants of the previous universe, the existence that came before this one, and they're having a battle against the many different multiversal Doctor Dooms and Mephistos, and a Phoenix that's Raven Darkholme, and it's just absolute chaos from beginning to end. The problems that I had with this book very much on display in this final issue with Odin, the million-year BC original Avenger wielding Mjolnir, who he supposedly created for his son back in the day, but somehow is wielding this before his son is even born. They have, the original Phoenix that is supposedly Thor's mom, but also Thor's other mom, Gia is in this issue, as well as his other mom, Freya. By the end of this issue, we see her too, introduced as his moms. We have the Logan Phoenix holding back basically the end of the universe, as we have a reality tsunami happening, trying to come to our heroes. I'm telling you, this book is just page after page of. If I didn't read any issue of Avengers prior to this, just forget about it, because not only you're just not going to understand a word of what's going on here. The basic villains, really, it's Doctor Doom basically versus Mephisto. He's not really fighting anybody else in this book. The main Doctor Doom, right? And then some weird stuff happens with Ant-Man, who supposedly can make power grow. That because there's a page here where Doctor Doom is holding the reality in his hand, like the power. Once I have this power, and then Ant-Man shoots that, and it grows and swallows him. And I'm like, okay, that's not really how Ant-Man's power works. But it usually has to make something physical grow or shrink. We have the sleeping Celestial, who the Avengers have been using as a base of operations for the last 85 issues or so, comes to life, and it's now Deathlock, and he is he helps get the Avengers out of this at the expense of his sacrifice. We have some sacrifices in this, as the Ghost Rider above all, or whatever they're calling him,
the All Rider.
The All Rider supposedly sacrifices himself to save the universe, as well as the Starbrand.
I've got him. I was all right with him. Secretary, I thought that was really quite well done, considering of all the chaos that was going on in the book. I thought Robbie Reyes, taking the hit for the team. I thought that was well done. I thought that was particularly okay. I was okay with that.
Yeah, with the exception of like I said, everything that Jason Aaron in this book does has to be like 10 steps above epic, and the fact that he creates a Ghost Rider planet, even though
don't. I'm with you on this.
Okay.
Terrible.
Yeah. So I mean, we did see the Doctor Doom planet in the previous Avengers issue. So it's like, well, it's not like I haven't seen this in last month, so I guess they can do it. It's having Loki be the Avenger Prime, and leveling him up by giving him the Eye of Agamotto in his head, and then having Mephisto finally being taken out by Nighthawk, which was weird. This book really was just chaos after chaos, and looking at the end when they're all standing there and they're dedicating the statue to Robbie Reyes and Starbrand at the end, and you see all these different characters, and I'm just like, wow! Once you get over these epic Avengers, the second wave is just like, who are these people?
Yeah,
you're like Brew and Howard the Duck, and who are they? It's like who cares? But Shang-Chi, it's not
right.
Con Gorilla. No, no, thank you. So at the end, they break up the team, and then you realize Mephisto survived. Of course, you realize Robbie survived. Of course, kind of survived. But then you see that that Starbrand created a pocket dimension where all of these variant Avengers survived, and Avenger Prime, as Loki's, he survived. So at the end, it didn't really seem like there was a lot of sacrifice that went on for this epic tale, right? It just seemed that the big thing. I'm happy it's over. Bring on Jed MacKay and the next iteration of this book. And this book is 67 pages long. And how much did it cost us, Lucas?
I'm not sure, but because I don't have the price on there, but it's 67 pages. It's probably a freaking heavy ass book. But if you give me
$7.99.
$7.99.
All right.
And probably half that could have be taken out, and I would have got to the same conclusion. But okay.
Well, do we see any of these characters again, Johnny?
I hope not. But then, the one thing I will say about this book, because I think you've pretty much covered it very, very well. Read the last page. Read Jason Aaron's goodbye, because there are some poignant moments in there. We have lost a couple of people. So
yeah, he does shout out Carlos Pacheco.
Yeah.
And he
someone else, a colorist gets mentioned as well. So
yes,
bearing in mind,
Justin Ponzer.
Nobody gets out of the bed on the morning and says, you know what, I'm going to do a bad comic book. Right. For all the while that we don't like this Avengers run, and we haven't for a while, to be fair, there will be people that absolutely love it. So if this is your cup of tea, if you're bought into all the different Phoenixes and everything, and why wouldn't you? Because every comic book company's been doing multiverse for the last 5 years anyway. Then fair enough. This is your grand goodbye. Normal pared down service will begin next month. Not my cup of tea, or in any shape, way, or form. I was sad when the dog almost bought it. I don't understand why there's a floating hammer on page 25 without anybody holding on to it. But yeah, the Captain America book. The one before, the week before,
Yeah,
that was a better read
the
than this.
Cold War Alpha.
Yeah, that was a lot better than this.
y-
But we're not talking about that one. So I'm glad this Avengers run's over. And as everyone knows, I love Jed McKay, so I've got high hopes for the next run.
You made me remember something of this book too. Is that halfway through this book when they're talking about the phoenixes, they have Echo and the prehistoric phoenix, uh, and they say the phoenix is a force for love.
Mhm.
I was like, someone tell Chris Claremont that from when he
Yeah,
had her destroying universes. So
yeah.
I
That
thought
was
that was
the
kind of funny.
that was the Dark Phoenix, wasn't it? The element, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh.
other than that, 2 minute warning.
Hey, well, Lucas, we didn't get what your thoughts are on Avengers
Okay, yeah. So
Assemble.
we're so close. I'll go quick. You asked, will we see any of these weird random characters again? We will probably see Avengers Prom again. That's Loki, because they got new Loki stuff coming out. We're going to see Captain Carter again, of course. We will see that new Moon Knight character that she's slated to have her own series. That's the Layla Moon Knight character. We will see Agamotto, of course, from the BC Avengers. We probably will see um, Doom Supreme. He was a very compelling character. That's the guy who killed his wife and then used her skin in order to get a more powerful freaking effect on on the magic world. Um, and we will definitely see some type of which call it freaking
We see
Wolverine that
the
was a mixture of Captain America probably
the,
pretty soon.
Oh,
the Tony
The
Stark Ant
right.
Man. Will we
The,
see him?
yeah, exactly. So the point that we're missing, that a lot of people are missing, is that all this happened within the God Quarry, right? The God Quarry is supposed to be you've gotten so powerful, and then the last stop before godhood is you go into the quarry, and then you see like what's your potential, who you can freaking be. Um, the last person that we saw going into the God Quarry before all this was actually Thanos, during this little run. So if you look at this picture very closely, you can see there's all these other little freaking gods. Now that the God Quarry has been broken apart, all these gods should now have been released on the Marvel universe. So that should be a freaking thing, and we know it's going to be a big thing because I forget which Thor comic it was, but there's a Thor comic that everybody's going crazy about, where he has like this obsidian black glove with stones in there and everything. So we've all been waiting on to see what's going on with that, and it starts here supposedly in conjunction with whatever else is going on in the Thor comic with Thor and the sister and everything. So there's all types of weird stuff that they're fucking trying to bring it together. I would have wished they did this whole Avengers Omega stuff during the summer. Um, so people actually have time to read it, but they decided to end it now. So that's whatever. All right.
All right. What do we got?
And
Let's do a 2 minute warning in 2 minutes today.
yes, sir. Okay. So stuff to watch out for, and make sure you buy it pre-sale as the Amazing Spider-Man number 26. We talked about number 25. Skipping over all of that is Red Goblin. That's something to keep an eye out for. People have been all over that one. And of course, Spider-Man number 7, the second print. That was the first appearance of Spider-Boy. It's still a mystery of where he came from, but he says he's been here the whole damn time. So everybody wants to know what's going on with that one.
Hmm.
Coming out in May for FOC is this beautiful gem by Art Germ, Lady Loki. Love this one. Love how he's got kind of accentuating her front features. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Um, there on FOC also this week, Daredevil and Echo number 125 by Chung. There's your Extreme
She's
Venomverse
still
1.
Echo in that cover.
Yes, sir.
She's still Phoenix
Oh,
rather.
Phoenix Fire, yeah. 125 and Hyuk Lee. Then there's your Hallows Eve 125 by Marguerite Sauvage. Hellcat
Actually,
number
liking that
3.
series.
Yeah, okay. I
I
thought it would have
it's
been
weird.
ended by now. Got to keep an eye out for the Spider-Man 2099. It's interesting that number 4 is on FLC, even though issue number 1 hasn't even come out yet. But all right, y'all do you, Marvel. Star Wars Darth Vader Black, White, and Red number 2 on 125. It's going to be interesting. Then 125 by you, not you, Johnny. Lin Yu, the artist. Storm number 1/100 by Art.
Everyone's having a pop at my ass. Fine, if you're going to be like that about it, fine. Just you wait. I will get me one of those blank covers of something, and I am going to draw something on it, and then it's going to be worth at least no more than I paid for it.
It's going to be one of a kind. It's one of a kind.
Yeah, one of a kind.
Machine artwork.
This year, Torrin Clark 125. Warlock Rebirth number 2, second appearance of Eve Warlock. So keep an eye out for that one. In fact, we got to cover Warlock Rebirth number 1, which was her first appearance. Coming soon this Wednesday, 4/26. Aliens number 125. This one's the Del Auto. Avengers Beyond number 2, 125 by Ariel Diaz. Bunch of Alex Ross timeless villain variants coming out. Deadpool number 6. Your Hulk number 14. I think this is the last issue of the series before they go back to stuff that people actually want to read.
Good.
Thor just says Thor's sister as growing up on the freaking cover. Darth Vader, black, white, and red. Freaking people are loving these covers. The only thing that's stopping it from popping off is that there's a bunch of retailer exclusives out there, but people are loving these Del Autos and that one to the right, which is the Alex Lee cover.
That's my favorite cover.
That is gorgeous, yeah.
And if you see this on your retailer's freaking shelf, Strange Academy Finals number 6, and it's less than $100. Get this bad boy because it's already freaking sold out. It's not even Wednesday, and it's already sold out everywhere. Can't even get it on eBay right now. So freaking go ahead and freaking grab that one.
Why?
We don't know, but I maybe a month ago speculated. I was like, hey, it's kind of interesting that you had Emily Blight on the cover, and she now has Doyle Dormammu's freaking powers. So I was like, hey, there might be something interesting going on. I still don't know what's going on inside this freaking book, but I thought that was interesting. Ever since then, and I know people don't freaking listen to me, but
so what?
Yeah, other people have caught on to that, and then they've been shouting out Comic Crusaders for bringing that up. So it's been just going off the shelves, going out, not available. So if you see that one, maybe if you get a chance, take a little peek and see if there's anything interesting in there, and then just freaking grab it and run. Because right now it's popping off at $70 a pop, plus $20 shipping.
Wow,
that's
125.
Excessive.
Yep. And that, dear friends, was your 2-minute warning.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us for this episode of No Prize Podcast. Be with us in 2 weeks, and if everything holds well, maybe we'll be talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh man, that means I've got to go to the cinema.
You gotta.
So just so I know, Lucas, if I go to the cinema watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3, is that a business expense?
You got to make sure you say the receipt. And then you even the food, right? You can probably freaking deduct it, but you got to freaking make sure that all the receipts. So what I always tell people is make sure you have a separate credit card that's for all this business stuff, all the comic book stuff, and then you only use that card, so you don't have to go back and everything because it logs it all for you.
So then, if I buy a comic, is that a business?
Yes, it
That's
is.
a business expense.
It is, but you cannot hold on to it for more than a year. You got to sell it. Yes, you got to sell it within a year, otherwise it goes into collectibles. And then there's actually a higher percentage, up to 25% that you owe to the IRS because it's now collectible.
I'm putting my claim in for expenses this month.
Now I don't know about the UK. Once again, I am not a CNA or CPA for the UK.
I'm just joking.
But that is a rule, for if it's a collectible you've held on for more than a year, it is a collectible, but you do owe a higher percentage if you hold on to it for a year. If you sold it before a year, there's different rules, and you only owe 50%.
People are falling asleep now.
Send your expense report to Al Mega. He'll take it.
Yeah, sweet.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Adios.